got a Kenmore 70 series washing machine here, and it's not spinning and not draining, and we've had some issues, and I've got the owner here who's going to tell you exactly what the symptoms have been.
So it will go through the wash cycle. When it gets to the end of the wash cycle, where we're moving ahead to the end of the wash cycle, it will stop. And at one point, we had read about how you would reset it by opening and closing the lid rapidly 6 times.
Yeah, so you hear that? Did it actually work? Activating the lid switch 6 times would reset this and get it to work.
It worked for some time, and then we got to the point where we had to do that a number of times, and then eventually it might work. Now it's to the point where that won't work at all. So now, when we get to this point, we're going to get to the spin, and it won't spin.
Yep, so the thing is, when it gets to the spin cycle, it needs to verify that the lid is closed, so you haven't got your hands in or something like that when it starts to go really fast. So all of a sudden the lid switch comes into play. And the lid switch, you've got this little activator here. So again, if it's not that big and that long, if it's snapped off, then that could be the issue. But then there's the receiving end of the lid switch over here, and you can short it out or activate it with a screwdriver like we're about to do. Look at that, it does what we want. So we've verified that it is actually the lid switch which is causing the problem. We were sus on this here. We were thinking about the gearbox and the drive between the motor and the gearbox, but this is conclusively proving that it's the lid switch not activating. Somewhere between this switch and that, we're going to pull the lid switch out and have a look. Yes, it stops instantly. And the lid, oh, now it's going to work, but it hasn't been working. Yeah, if I put it down gently, it's not working. So there's an issue with the lid switch. There we go, give it a slam and it's going to work, but it's not consistent. So we'll pull that out, and what can happen with these is the switch itself can split and come apart so that the little paddle that's being pushed down is no longer activating. So what we can do is put a little bit of glue on the switch if that's the case, and then put a zip tie around it to hold it together. But step 1, put these 2 screws right there, 2 little Phillips head screws there and there. We'll pull that out, and then we can get this down out of the way and grab the switch, pull it out, and have a look and see what it actually looks like. Okay, so there's a lot of movement on this drum here. You can actually just push that right out of the way, and then the lid switch is under there. See, the mechanism will come out, and hopefully there's enough cord there to get it out so we can look at it and see what's going on. There's the switch. Now, it doesn't look like it's splitting. Okay, so I've just been trying to work on this switch, and I couldn't pry this off here, but I was able to get that off. I just popped that off and get that out. And I just want to get in so I can actually spray some WD-40 in there, because the switch is working, but it's right at the bottom of the travel. So obviously looks like in the long term it's going to need to be replaced, because it's not coming apart like can be the case. If your switch is actually splitting, you can just put a couple of drops of glue on it, then put a quick tie around it and hold it back together, but that's not the case here. So we can look at extending this, and again, you want to make sure yours hasn't broken off and come shorter, but even also you could probably mount it a little bit higher when you do it up to have it a bit higher, but probably this is going to have to look at getting the switch replaced. Okay, so I've pulled this apart and studied it. So I was wanting to pop it apart to try and get a bit of WD-40 inside, just to clean the contacts, make it work a bit easier. It is working. You hear it clicking and working right at the end of its travel. It's certainly not early, it's right down there where it's working, but it's still working. So what I'll do, I'll mount it and press it right up, because there'll probably be a bit of adjustment. Press it right up as high as I can and mount it back into position. But I tried to pop it off here to get, I just wanted to get some WD-40 inside, but it's very, very sealed. I've tried here to pop it apart, and it's not coming apart, so I don't want to break it. I want to keep this going. So if just moving it up and playing with it like I've done doesn't fix it, then we'll order a new part and then swap it out, which should then, in order to unplug it, we'll have to be tipping the machine upside down or getting the barrel out, one of those two. Okay, so just putting the screws back in, and I'm holding this up with my fingers. Can I have the screwdriver, please? Thanks. It's not the right one, but let's see how we go. No, I need a screwdriver. Someone's, as you can see, used that screwdriver and filled it with paint or putty or something, and it's not overly usable anymore. Okay, so we'll just do this up. Can you see that? As I said, this hand's holding it up fully high as much as possible, so that that switch gets as much motivation and movement as possible. Okay, so that's come up beautiful and tight, and this, I can tell you, it's now sitting right there at the top, and clicking. That was way down before, so this is going to fix it just by remounting it. I think these screws have come a bit loose. Yours may be totally broken. You'll have to experiment with it to see. What I'm going to recommend to these people in this house is they order that part, because I think this will do, but I'd be recommending that they order that part, get it in, and have it here, so that if it plays up again, then they can switch it out. But what we need to do now is get this around to a spin cycle and then pull it out. Dun, dun, dun. There you go, my repair has not worked. Okay, so this switch, the little pin up here isn't pressing the switch down far enough. If you look at the switch, it has to travel all that way, all that way, all that way, all the way. And then right at the end of the travel, it's clicking right at the very end of the travel. So it's worn out, it needs to be replaced. We've just had a look on Amazon, they're only $9, so definitely don't try and repair this one. But for the time when this is going to come, because it's not working with the lid switch, I'm going to do a little repair, which is going to cost in America exactly 1 red cent, or 1 euro cent, or in Australia 5 cents, because that's the smallest coin we've got. I'm going to super glue that coin onto there, which will raise it up by the width of a coin. So once we super glue that on there and put it back in place, then that will be that much further that the pin will press it down. So it might even need 2 coins, but just an easy way to put something in there. So I'm just going to put some super glue on this, drop it on there so it stays in place, and then when the pin hits, obviously this arm now is going to travel down that little bit more. Although that switch, it really is at the end of its life. But you know, if it means another 2 or 3 days or a week, whatever it takes for the post to come, it should be enough to get us through. So I'm just going to put, this is super glue gel, I'm going to put a blob of it on there, like that. Cover that up so it doesn't go everywhere, and then I'll keep Mr. George Washington face up. Put him there. And there, a metal washer like that would probably cost 25 cents, so a 1 cent coin is just perfect. Then we'll screw that back in place, it can dry, and we'll see if that's enough, and if not, we can lash out, put another 1 cent on top, and hopefully that'll be enough so that the pin's now pressing down. But that's not a permanent repair, that's just until you can get a new switch in and get it going. So there he is, hiding in there. That's inside the lid switch, and I've got this set to spin and the button out, so if it's working, look at that, That is a 1 cent repair. So this is a dodgy repair just to go for the end of the life of that switch while the new one comes in. But that is now working and all perfectly safe. So it's screwed in, and I've just, by putting the coin on there, you can put a piece of plastic, you can put whatever you've got, just a washing machine. So a 1 cent piece was lying around, so I've glued that on there, and that's a fix for now. And that's going to work.